Thank you, Kim.
Back on.
Should be.
Back on.
That's what she said.
You don't want Kim to talk anymore now. We're good.
Ditto.
Okay, so at some point here today, I guess, you know, cut to the chase here. We would like to see a motion from the board offering a contract offer to the village. And I think it would be important if the offer is not accepted by the village, I would like to see a motion made requesting from the village a 1-month extension so we can hammer out the details and agreement. I don't want to walk away from the Almont Police Department. I don't think it's in the best interest of either community or the residents. There are options out there. The options, the way I look at it, is asking the state police to take calls in our township, asking the county sheriff to do the same thing. State police does not contract. The county sheriff does contract, but we couldn't entertain a contract with the county sheriff for at least 6 months, sometime in January. So the general idea I get throughout the community is they want to keep the Almont Police Department. And I think that's the goal of this board as well. So I don't know, you know, Dennis, you mentioned you'd like further information on the capital expenditures. I don't know if the village is prepared to do that.
Well, we have had that discussion relative to the fidelity
Right.
of the information we've received. And if you look at the current contract and the last 3 years of the contract, we have gone by the IRS mileage rate to establish a certain portion of what we pay per year. And I assume that IRS is a mileage rate that goes towards the operation of the vehicles that support the township police. And we pay that in advance. And I think the number right now is a little over $2,000 a month. And that's kind of where I want to try to figure out, so that at the end of this, if we were to award a contract for 25, 26, at the end of that contract year, we would have a better, more data available to us relative to the mileage, the overtime, and the costs that go into the equipment and capital that is listed on their spreadsheet. That's where I'm coming from. And I thought we had agreement that they would be willing to give us a little more information on that, or at least work over the next year to get more fidelity into those numbers. That's right now it's like $168,900, and I think Mike may have a better appreciation for where that number came from than I do. But I think it's fair to the township residents that we know what that number includes.
Okay. Also, the verbiage, excuse me, the verbiage in the contract, a copy of the contract was sent to our attorney, and he did review it, and he feels that there's some areas that need to be, I guess, negotiated with the village. He was supposed to get back with me early this week. If I don't hear from him today, I will get in touch with him. I'm not sure at this point then, from the perspective of wanting more fidelity, as you put it, Dennis, on the capital expenditures. We're still dealing with a dollar amount figure. And I think the 1-month extension request would be to get the fidelity on the on the capital expenditures, and I guess more negotiations on the verbiage in the contract. So it's the board's pleasure, I guess, at this point where we want to go with this discussion today. Like I said, I was hoping for a motion to solidify at least a dollar amount in the contract, and then maybe the verbiage and the fidelity can be worked out if that 1 month extension is granted. I don't see that as being a large stumbling block, but that's where I'm at with it. Randy, do you have anything?
I've talked a little bit to the chief or whatever. I know he's not in the negotiations. He's told me numerous times that whatever this township board came up with, a number that they were comfortable with, that he would make it work. But apparently he's out of the picture and not able to make that work. So, and I've talked to a lot of township residents or whatever. Some of them are saying, what are we getting extra here? It's nothing. It's the same thing. And I understand costs go up, but do costs go up $300,000? I'm not part of the negotiating team, so I've heard a lot of the stuff that went on. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
I think some of it has to do with the value in which we receive, right? So what we do is we contract for a service. We're not part of the Almont Police Department as much as maybe we'd want to be, but we don't decide who works for us, what cars, what roads they patrol, any of that, right? It is a service. I don't want to demean the police department or anything by that, but it's like hiring a lawn service. I don't need to know how much they pay for their lawnmower, how much they pay for their gas, or how much they pay their employees. At the end of the day, I only care about what I pay them. So while I appreciate we can beat up some of those numbers, at the end of the day, we just need to do what's right by our residents as to the end result, the number in which is this for what we get, is this, a good value for our residents. So,
Okay.
I mean, that, and you brought up the contract itself, that needs to be worked out as well, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 items here from the attorney that he said are basically not agreeable. So those things definitely need to be hammered out. I don't have any problem with the level 6, going to the 2.25.
So
I don't think any of our residents would have a problem with that. Potentially going to, $300 to $400 a year per household. I think they might have a problem with that.
Well, the increase in the assessment is it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So,
yeah.
The level of that assessment, like I said, is not to be determined today. The cost that is associated with it would be determined today if the board so chooses.
So, Gary, let me ask a question. And I understand we want to, there's no sense talking about contract language or anything else if the dollar figure isn't acceptable.
Right.
So today you're proposing that we essentially make a motion to approve a dollar level offer, and knowing that the contract language is still out there and being reviewed, which you kind of have an obligation to have your attorney look at any contract, and there was a lot of questions raised about it, so I'm glad he did.
That would be the rationale for the 1 month extension.
In the 1 month extension, we would be looking at 1/12 of whatever we offer for the contract. I would think that, and I can't speak for the village, I would think the village would probably ask their attorney to also look at any modified contract that our attorney gave us. It's going to go back and forth, and it comes down to time. and how much time, because they have to act absent an agreement to extend. They have to act by the 30th. We have to act by the 30th, I think, at the absolute latest. So is that appropriate? Is that okay to do? Can we approve a dollar amount with the understanding that it's still subject to negotiation, waiting for the feedback from the legal side on the contract?
That would be acceptable to me, certainly. Kim, you have anything to offer, or Jenny, I'm sorry?
We're Elmont Township, Elmont Village. We start with Elmont. I want to stay with Elmont Police Department. And I get the amount went up a huge amount, but if you look at your option 2 from the Sheriff's County, that's a huge amount too. So I feel like there has to be a meet in the middle that we can compromise on and work it out with the village, that we can stay with the village. The residents I've talked to, which I probably talked to 30 people, they're willing to pay a little bit more on their taxes to keep the police department local, because I think the response time is significantly better if you have local police than the sheriff's department. I've heard someone from a different area that uses the sheriff's department, and it took over 45 minutes for someone to come to their house. And it was a police officer off duty calling for that. So that, to me, I don't like the idea going to the county. So I would really hope that we somehow can come up with a number that is fair to both. I think we need to look at, if we were in the village's shoes, what would we be asking for too? Not just, I get it's a huge amount, but we have to look at where they're coming from too, not just where we're coming from, to meet in the middle. So, just my opinion.
I would note, we did increase our offer significantly. I mean, we're not holding at the 450 mark, I mean, we've gone up quite a bit in the numbers that we've offered. I would say 27 to 30%, which is a substantial increase. So, and I'm with you. I totally agree. I only look at the sheriff as that's your other option. Yeah, I mean, there's the state police. I don't think that's a viable option. So you have to go to the
there's going to
county
be
sheriff.
a huge increase going to the sheriff's department from our previous contract, which was a 3-year contract. Like, there's still a huge increase going there too, is all I'm saying. So
The sheriff number would land right about where I think everybody's kind of looking at the 2.25% long term. I mean, the sheriff, the way I see it, if you go with the sheriff, you're going to be with the sheriff for a while. It's not going to be just a short term.
right, but I don't know. I mean, we don't technically even know the actual amount from the sheriff, the full amount from the sheriff, correct? Because this amount and this here, does that include the cop cars or no? It does include the cars?
From what we've been told.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just didn't say, so I was curious if that was on top of that amount.
So when you mentioned meeting the village halfway, I mean, the village came in at $750. I think their last contract offer was $673. So level 6 would generate, and Mike, I'm gonna have to cut to the chase on the numbers, would generate roughly 6, okay? Just under. So meeting halfway would be 636 roughly. Okay.
620.
Hmm?
620.
Well, if you take half of 300, that's 150,000, but they're down to 673.
So I think the last discussion we had, it was 570 and 670, roughly. Half of that would be at 620.
Okay. So I guess my question to the board, are we in a position today to entertain a motion?
Well, my thoughts are that the goal is to stay with the village of Elmont. The police department has been a has been a great addition. I think that the residents want to see that also. I think everybody's concern is the cost. Nobody wants to pay an additional $300,000 for the same service. But I think everybody's moving in a good direction to make this work. I think that 620 would be great. I don't know if that will be acceptable to the village. I think maybe we would need to raise that. So if we make a motion and we have an amount, is the village then going to meet and have a meeting? And are we going to be able to get feedback from them after this meeting? Because we're meeting on Thursday at 7 at night. I know there was some concern about the times, and we purposely did make it at 7 so that, the residents would be more apt and able to come. Is that something that we can revisit based on the village's response to what we're going to do here today?
So there was some discussion at a figure of 650. And I want to exclude this whole thing with the mills assessment. That's not the purpose of today's meeting, but it is tied to that figure. But if that 2.25% didn't raise the 650, we could tap the current fund balance in the police budget to make up the difference for this year only, okay?
Mhm.
And then set the millage accordingly Thursday night. So that's another option that this board could consider. So I guess the question is where we at today?
So I frankly, tapping into a fund balance that we don't really clearly understand how much of that is actually there, that's risky. I mean, there might be some there, but not. And once you take that, that's like taking money out of your savings account and putting it to pay your mortgage. You can do that once and then it's exhausted. I would suggest that we be very cautious about how deep you dip into a fund balance for a 1-year contract.
That would come from the police fund. The
Yes.
money's in there. I ran the report this morning, just so we all know. And there's a total of $367,000 in there. And just to remind everybody, that has to last us until summer or until winter tax collection. So that's we gotta make that stretch. So, and based upon the fact that we are going to be putting in a larger amount, are we going to have a seat at the table moving forward with the village, with the police department? We would be coming close to almost 50% of funding. Should that, I believe it should give us a seat at the table to help be a partner, to help make some decisions and be a voice based on the amount we're funding. And that would be a discussion then following this issue.
If we're given a 1 month extension.
Right,
Correct.
right.
Mr. Supervisor, I think I'm ready to make a motion to set it at level 6. That equates putting it back from 2.0 to 2.25, which it was in the prior years. And I guess that would be subject to the review of the contract by Village Township.
You can't make a motion about the military right now.
Dollar amount then?
Dollar amount?
Yeah, you
The
can.
dollar amount equates to 590,000 then. Correct?
Yes.
That's what level 6 is.
It's going to generate a little bit more than the 590, but
Right,
That's
correct.
That's right.
Because the rate would be set on Thursday night. We're just trying to go, level 6 would generate 590, a little bit more.
So, I mean, part of that discussion we just had on tapping the fund balance to make up, if there is a difference, is that an option or not an option?
I think it is an option.
An
It's
option
not a great
if it's
option.
there, but I think Mike, it's risky, you know, and it's only gonna be for this year. It's not gonna be there next year.
Right.
So, you know,
So is that a motion?
yes,
Can you repeat your motion?
no.
I don't know.
Well, apparently I can't use the 2.25, but I'll use the number of, level 6, 590,000.
There's no level 6, just 590,000.
We have a motion on the floor with support. Any further board discussion?
I wondered, yes, sorry about that. Yeah, I would fully expect that, well, I would hope that the village would consider this, and I would assume if this is not acceptable, they would have a counteroffer, because I would like to see us reach an agreement. So I would hope that there would be additional back and forth after this. Because I do want to see us stay with the village police department. So I think we all need each other. The village would find it difficult financially to do it on their own. We would find it difficult to do it on our own. And again, we're better together. And I think we really can find a way to make this work. So that is my thought on this.
Comment, Kim. Thank you. Anything else?
I have to agree with Kim, and the timeframe that you laid out, Gary, is pretty difficult to accomplish with both attorneys looking at it. I'm not even sure who should be writing the contract. Sounds like both sides could be writing the contract. Attorney review, I can't see how we could avoid a 1-month extension, and hope we can iron out the things like Kim had laid out and find a path forward that works for both the village and the
So we have a motion on the floor with support. We've had some discussion. Before I ask for a vote, I want to bear in mind I would be looking for a second motion asking for the 1-month extension, okay?
I'll make that motion. And I have a note here. I would like to move,
We have one motion on the floor right now.
Yeah, we can't go.
oh,
Okay.
I will come back to that, Gary.
Do a roll call vote then.
Are we, hang on.
I'm
Are
sorry,
we, hang on.
go ahead.
Are we willing to go to 600?
I'm willing to go to 600.
Are we what? Rick?
I'm asking Randy if he's willing to amend his to go to 600 versus the 590.
Oh, if we have to go into the fund balance there in the police, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. If we feel that it's needed, yes.
So that's a hard cap at 600, Rick, is that what you're saying?
So would you be changing your motion then to 600?
That if we needed to take 10 out of the fund balance, if so needed, yes.
Okay.
As long as it's there.
I mean, that does slightly raise the millage rate of what we were trying to try to target, but you know, there's also increases between the officers and just costs, right? So,
Village rate we'll discuss Thursday night.
correct.
So,
Just include in your motion that the supervisor will offer the contract to the village, just so he has authorization to
Yes,
do it. Okay,
yes.
thank you.
That you're offering a contract to the village.
that's correct.
Yes.
Are we ready, Jim?
Yes.
It's also contingent on the contract, right?
Yes.
That the contract can
Subject
be
to the
negotiated.
review of the contract.
Okay, Estenberg,
Yes.
Swears,
Yes.
Streeter,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Hannicky, yes. Or Grossbeck, sorry.
Yes. Okay, that motion is approved. Second motion.
I would like to follow that up. I'd like to make a motion that in the event the above offer is not accepted by the Village of Almont, a 1-month extension from June 30th, 2025 through July 31st, 2025 is requested in order to further negotiate. Pardon me?
I think we need to put an amount.
I do not want an amount. This is strictly a motion to give us another extension for the time.
There's a cost for that extension. It's
Correct.
included in the contract that the last time we got a contract, it included an extension amount. I think you have to just define that it's 1/12 of the amount that we offered. It's $50,000 a month.
Do you have that broken down per month?
600,000 divided by 12 is 50
Okay.
grand, yeah.
And then if you could add that, I would amend my motion to add that.
Just for clarity, that's all.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with support. Any further discussion?
I guess, so I know we're going to get something back from Mr. Siebert. I'm just trying to work through the mechanics in my head. We get back a contract from Mr. Siebert. Are we going to put these figures written into that contract, or are we going to just present a document with these financial numbers on them subject to a copy of the contract, or do we submit the contract for review first? How does everybody see the mechanics working?
Come up with the dollar figure that's acceptable, then we need to sit down in negotiations, I guess, on the contract language. So I would, I guess, confer with Mr. Kirbyson on the feasibility and mechanics behind that.
I just don't want to get our steps wrong. I mean,
Right.
if we agree on a hard cap of 600,000 and if that's accepted, then I think it's fair to talk about the extension to get the language worked out.
Right.
So, I mean, there's got to be an order. We just have to make sure we follow the appropriate order. I don't want to get out ahead with one or the other. So,
And just so everybody is clear also, we have to set the millage rate by the end of this month. So that's why we have a hard deadline to, by law, we have to set that. So that's why we're trying to get this done as timely as we are.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with support. Roll call, vote. Jenny?
Streeter,
Yes.
Hannicky, yes. Chris,
yes.
Eschenberg,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Swears,
Yes.
Grossbeck.
Yes. Okay, motion is approved. That would conclude our meeting for today.
No,
Still have-
do a public comment.
Yeah.
Right. Anything from the public here this morning? Yes, Dale.
So this young lady. No, go ahead. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of items. The negotiating committee members will recognize these numbers, but Gary brought it up a few minutes ago. It's a good point that this contract has been in place for years. The contract that we are looking to modify, it was a contract that was severely lopsided in a sense that it greatly benefited the township at the cost of the village residents. An example of that is the township received 60% of the service and they were paying 40% of the cost of the police department. The new proposal that we've been through, it's a $1.5 million budget without new equipment, And we realize you have all seen 750,000 is half of that cost. Again, it is, statistics have shown that the township receives more benefit from the department than the village does. It's certainly size and population would make that make sense. But the committee came to negotiate we met for several hours, and the end result was the committee wanted to discuss or have the number based on manpower. We ended up going through that several times. Again, half of the cost is $750,000 without equipment. We made an offer without overhead and equipment at $673,000. Again, the village residents paying the significant portion of the budget. So I want to make sure that that is understood, that we, after negotiating and using the process that the team wanted to generate numbers from, we came up with a value of $673,000, and that was our offer that was on the table. I wanted everyone to be aware of that, and I assume all of the board was aware of that. So, I appreciate your efforts, and I'll look forward to seeing your document.
Thanks, Dale. Anything else from the public? Yes,
I have a bad niece.
that's okay.
Does the public at any point, I've missed quite a few meetings being out of town, but do we get to see any numbers or what the breakdown is here? And
You do.
and where would I find that?
You can get it from any one of our board members.
Okay,
Okay. After the meeting, it's fine.
okay. I would like to see the Elma place stay also, but I also understand that, that's a lot of money, and I really think that if you're going to put that much money into them, you definitely need to have a say in where that money goes and how it's spent.
Thank you. Anything else from the public? Any board discussion? Any further board discussion?
So Gary, we should say, in defense, I understand the math that Mr. Gerbison was suggesting, that the village pays, it gets 40-some% of the value and the township gets 60. We spent a lot of time going through the minutes in the Clemens report, which is the one that defines the specific police activity that takes place in the township and what takes place in the village. The other members of the negotiating team worked at it from one direction, adding up available minutes and how many were spent. I looked at total minutes that were attributed to each, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, first, you have to take out the police liaison. Even though the police liaison is parked in the township, okay, it's funded by the county. So those minutes don't really accrue against time spent serving the township. That person is serving the school, it's funded by the county. You have to take those out. I think everybody would agree that's fair. If you do that, you find out that the township share of the total minutes, as reported by the police department over the last 9 months, is a little less than 42%. Okay, not 65%. And I think just saying it's so, that it's 65%, doesn't make it so. I would argue anybody can do the math. You can, counting number of phone calls or counting number of stops, I don't think is necessarily a legitimate way to determine who's getting the most value. I look at minutes spent, and that if that report is of no value, it doesn't mean anything, then we shouldn't even be looking at that report anymore. So I just wanted to make sure that the board knew. I understand the thought process that, well, you guys are getting 65% of the value. If we're getting 65% of the value, 4 of the 12 officers are assigned to the township, 8 are to the village. So that doesn't tend to make one believe that 65% of the activity is in the township, or something's off in the balance of officers. So I just put that out there to suggest we did look at that. Two of us spent a lot of time analyzing that data going back 9 months, because we only have 9 months worth of that data. But that's kind of where the number fell. Thank you.
And just to make sure everybody understands and knows that whatever happens here with this contract, with the village, that will not affect the school liaison officer at all. That is funded through the county. That will not change. That person is extremely valuable. That will remain in place, that
Absolutely.
position.
Yep.
Dennis, you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to add to Mike's point, this is why I'm trying to get a handle on the fidelity of these numbers. And I agree with Mike, we've got those numbers from one side and down the other. I looked at it from the number of hours per month. I came up with 35% of the time that the officers are in the township. And again, we get no complaints about the quality of the officers, the patrols, that everybody wants to stay with the officers. This is a quality police department. But the fidelity is, as Mike said, those are the numbers we look at. Those are police reports. Those are the reports the chief gives us.
Rick, you have anything? Kim? Jenny? Randy? Okay. I just want to, I was a little incensed last evening. And for those people who may be at home watching this meeting on YouTube or may watch it after work, there were some comments on Facebook directed at this board for holding a meeting of the township board at 10 o'clock this morning, that we are trying to circumvent public attendance. That is totally untrue, okay? There's a balance here between board members and their work schedules and their personal lives. We also have a meeting this Thursday evening, which most of our meetings are in the evening. I don't think that it was appreciated, at least by myself or the rest of this board. And Rick, I know you made a response, and I appreciate your response. It was well said. So if there's anybody in the public that has some concerns about what this township's business is all about, they're more than welcome to come into my office, the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, or get a hold of one of our trustees to discuss your concerns. We are trying to be totally transparent and upfront with this public. So it's not in our best interest not to be. So I just want to set the record straight that there is no intent on the board's part to hide any business dealings with this township or our citizens. So that being said, I hope that clarifies that Facebook rhetoric. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Okay, motion to adjourn with support. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we stand adjourned.